begin. I think I could see some of the participants I already know. For initial time, they might have to see some repetitive slides. Never mind with that. So next 1.5 hour, we'll talk a lot around blockchain. If you guys have any of those questions, please raise your questions in the chat box. Although I have received some of very good questions through Gaurav. So once again, thank you, Gaurav, for inviting me at such a one of the most active community in the cyber world, at least in India, cyber frat. Always good to be here, and we're always happy to contribute through any of these blockchain or AI or digital sessions. So let's begin with a talk from my side. So today we will talk a lot around how human transformation will happen with the emerging technology like blockchain. So there you go. So my name is Prasanna Lohar. I'm from DCB Bank. I work at DCB Bank as a innovation in the architecture head. So that's in a nutshell from my side. I am very much passionate about collaboration and the innovation in the industry, and happy to contribute at any level for a betterment of the society. So today's presentation will talk about various current trends and how these current trends are affecting human transformation, our life, what is that impact will come to our life post COVID, how this emerging technology like blockchain or the amalgamation other techs like AI, IoT will really surpass that situation. We'll talk about current opportunities where blockchain is needed. We'll talk about why blockchain is needed in our life. We'll talk about how blockchain will help us to enhance our lifestyle or enhance our processes or enhance our businesses as an organization. Then later on, we'll talk about a bit of blockchain. We'll not get much into technical aspects of the blockchain in this session. We'll talk about overview of the blockchain, and we'll talk about various use cases in blockchain, which will help you to understand what all different use cases you yourself can derive at your organizations. Okay, so coming back, every 20 years we have seen something or the other thing will happen. Say way back in 1900 century, we have seen rise of first car or a first automated car, in the sense ki it was the car was having some steering and some assisted model of a driver was there. So just imagine, 20 million horses were running on the road in America, and all of these horses are not having any job today. So that's a story. It's not like it had happened in a one day or it had happened overnight. Similarly, what we have seen in the last 20 years post rise of internet and the post rise of multiple technology like email, mobile, social media, or cloud, we have seen life has changed. What we have seen, the open internet had got into our life in 1995, and today we see n number of use cases on a mobile with the help of internet, and we can't imagine our life without those use cases. So I think every 20 years we have seen in the past, maybe every 5 to 10 years you will see here on in the future. So ultimately, innovation and the collaboration, the right partner and technology is key for to move to the next step. So this is our current story in the past, like how we used to operate at a branches. Like this is a photograph of a particular bank branch. So you can imagine how many of you really visited bank branch last time. Maybe during demonetization you must have visited for cash handling or cash deposits. But I'm not seeing nowadays millennials or tech savvy customers are visiting branches. So just imagine what will happen to these branches in the next 20 years or next 30 years. Will these branches will be wiped out, or they will transform into something else? So way back, some like around 15-20 years back, I had opened my bank account in 30-35 days from a bank, right? And if I recommend some of our friend, okay, let's open our bank account in a 20 days or 15 days or even for 5-6 days, the current generation customer is not at all in that mood that I will open a bank account in a 5-6 days. Next generation customer will not bother about bank account itself. They will not be aware what is in my bank account. They will just know there is some entity which is regulated by government, where my money comes or where my asset comes, and I utilize them for something or the other. That's a way to look at how to connect your past to the present situation, moving on to the forward looking futuristic situation. So this is something which we have seen in the past. Branches are operating for either for your personal finance, loan, or they are operating for your financial research or deposits or any of the checkbook request or statement request. So today we are in that era. So we have seen an era wherein you some of our friends must have written inland letters or postcards, or in a like 20 to 30 years before, people used to send money through the money order. That too, money order was having a some limit, like some amount of limit. Today you can send as much as you want through RTGS and NEFT and real time with the help of IMPs and UPI. So this is what we have seen as a part of our communication. We have seen rise of multiple applications like Paytms, Google Pays, and they have really helped us to transform human into the next step, starting from that inland letter, postcard, or money order. We are in an era of instant messaging, or we are in an era of instant payment. So these were the old logos. Like these, some of our friends must have seen these logos. Like, can you see the Nokia? So Nokia was the most promising brand that moment, and Nokia never thought of they will be wiped out. Or even BlackBerry. BlackBerry, having a BlackBerry in the pocket was a luxury. Today, how many people really carry BlackBerry? AOL Messenger, which was one of those first online messenger people used to send message, or a Kodak. The Kodak is something who has really started photography for us in digital photography. Other like Yahoo Messenger, or we used to be in a queue for this STDIST booth. People are standing in the cinema hall for a booth. I think that era has gone. But just remember, all of these logos were the best logos that point in time. What is that missing is that these logos haven't understood the changing customer. They haven't understood how human is transforming because of something else is coming. What something else is there? So what we have seen, that something else is something internet or a mobile phone. These logos which we have seen like Kodaks or a Nokia, they have not adopted how next generation internet or how mobile phones are going to change our life. Today in April 2020, half of the world is on internet. Half of the world is carrying smartphones some or the other way, feature phones. I think that is a huge penetration, and in the next few years you will see that it, like a water, internet will become a commodity. You will not have to pay for that. It will just come through the government. This is the must entity for our life. So I think it's very important for organization, if they are transforming, if they are giving some kind of a services to the end user, they have to give ultimately on a smartphones and on online media with the help of internet. And just remember that there are different type of generations today and tomorrow, starting from traditionals or boomer, Gen X, millennials. There are different types of generation. Every type of generation expect a service or expect a lifestyle depending upon their mood. People in millennials or current generation would not like to go in front of a television and watch those serials. Indifferently, traditionalists or some of the boomers would really like to go in front of television, watch the TV. Similarly, the way of communications, millennials never calls, they are always on a text. So are your organization providing that kind of a text kind of or a chatbot kind of a banking or chatbot kind of a experience? Or are you guys providing a connected kind of a experience to those boomers and traditionalists? So it's very important, although smartphone, internet is in your life, how you are taking care of your target segment and a target customer with a secure way of communication. That's very important. The way we have seen change in the customer, the old paradigm, like my dad has worked for 2 or 3 jobs in his life, and this must be my fifth or sixth job, and I may be changing my job frequently. But next generation, they are not bothered about job. What they are bothered about engagement. They are bothered about learning every day. They are bothered about something new, something creative every day. Apart from their lifestyle, they want this creativity. They want this creativity type of services, something new every day. If they are on one game, they really want to get into another game in the next few days. So that's the lifestyle people have here on. So I think it's very important to see how how the future of work is gonna affect us and our life. So now look at this slide. The day when I bought my first computer, I had around 211 MB hard disk. Just imagine, way back in 1996 when I was having my first computer. So the hard disk was almost into MBs. And just imagine how much could be the RAM. Now today, when we are in era of internet and mobile, which is a phase 4 and phase 5, your mobile phone has more than that. And just imagine when you will be in a connected platforms. When you will be in connected platforms, your way of working, your way of transaction, the businesses, the way they're gonna work, the banks, they're gonna operate on connected platforms. It will be all together different. It will be completely like a extreme digital. If you see on this slide, organizations would like to transform them from not digital to adaptive digital, basic digital, advanced digital to extreme digital. What is mean by extreme digital? Extreme digital means zero touch, no interactions, voice interfaces, facial integration, zero paper. It's a completely digital kind of a experience for your end user. Say example, Amazon Go. You enter in Amazon Go shopping mall and you come out with all your ingredients and products, and you can really do the payments either with a facial or various other forms like QR code or contactless banking. So that's the era which you will see uh, here on your customer wants. If and I think you need to really take care of different set of generations of customer and provide a right set of a digital experience to the customer. So if you look at the banks, like tomorrow, so today when we are sitting at COVID era, everybody is sitting at home. Nobody's going out. What does it mean? It means as a bank, I need to provide all of those banking services, all of those branch services on mobile phone. That's very important to bring on all the digital experience for all the type of customers. That's very important. Also, tomorrow my branches are starting. What's going to happen? Are we going to operate on branches, such a big branches, or we come up with the small branches? Or if somebody is entering in a branch, somebody is entering in a branch, can we not bring on that innovation experience which we have seen based upon a computer vision? We see how many people are walking on the streets, and we figure it out, some notification to these guys, go back to your homes. Similarly, somebody is entering in my bank branch. Can I not know Mr. X has entered in my bank branch, and let me go and greet him? Mr. X, welcome to my branch, how can I help you? And when I know how I am going to help him with the help of the data which I am possessing as a bank or as an organization for that customer, I can certainly understand that customer's transaction behavior. And whenever I'm interacting with the Mr. X, I'll say this is something available for you based upon your past data or past transactions. That's a way to look at extreme digital. So similarly, our communications are also changing. Communications from laptops to the click-based mobiles has changed to touch-based mobile phones or swipes or a talk. People usually, millennials usually talk to Siri or Alexa, or maybe in the future we'll talk to our car, please start the car. Maybe we'll talk to tomorrow, your refrigerator, please let me know what all ingredients are missing. So I think this is very important aspect, how communication to your channels. So yesterday we have seen it's like a keyboard or a mouse, or today we are in era of voice commands or touch screens. Tomorrow it will be gesture based. Tomorrow it will be mood based. I am entering in a bank branch. My branch manager will come to know whether I am happy or unhappy based upon my mood. And similarly, there could be a number of possibilities will bring on as a different business model considering these intuitive interactions. So that's a way to look at. So I think whatever we have seen, these different adoption of internet or adoption of smartphones, and what we have seen, these logos which has been vanished, like Kodaks or Nokia's. These are the current logos. You can't imagine your life without Google if you are on Android. You can't imagine your life without Apple if you have an iPhone. Millennials can't imagine their life without Netflix or Geo or any other kind of a streaming application. We can't imagine our travel without Ola or Uber, because this is how we are habituated. Now see, Make My Trips, Book My Show, lot of impact has happened on their business model because of COVID. Are they gonna sustain here on? What is that needed for them to really sustain here on? or WhatsApp. So far, WhatsApp was just a text-based chat or a voice-based chat or a video-based chat. Can this WhatsApp will be converted as a payment instrument? We are hearing about 4 5 banks are experimenting around WhatsApp banking, and sooner or later we'll have this experience, just like what we have seen in WeChat in China. So I think that's a way to look at, and these logos are very customer centric logos. They know what their customers are doing. They know how customer is moving on their channels. So it's very important in future, if you really want to be a very good brand for your customer, need to understand your customers. So now let's see our current story. We are in era of COVID, and this is a very thin line or a thick line which will drive your digital transformation. It will drive human transformation. What we have seen as India in month of February, or as China in month of September, August, the situation will change in the next 6 to 7 months. The same customer who are going into branches will not like to go in the branches. Same customer who was doing paper-based account opening would not like to go for a paper-based account opening. They will aspire something new. They will aspire something better. So now, what is that next thing which we'll see? So during COVID, we have seen that it's a broken experience everywhere. Your supply chain has really broken. Your supply chain, starting from the food is produced at a farm and till it is received by your end user at home. It's all broken journey, and a journey which is broken at a travel industry or agriculture industry or any of this industry. It has given an impact directly or indirectly to the governments, various businesses, and a financial sector. So ultimate impact is on your economy. The economy is going down. So that's your current situation. People are working from home. Even if they are working at office, there are a lot of rules and regulations. In a country like India, where there is a huge population, we have different challenges. We don't have those challenges like what other countries don't have because of the less population, but we have a different challenges. We have not thought of those challenges now. We need to really see post COVID how this human transformation will happen. So any which ways in 2020 your economy gonna go down. So it's very important for organization, for you and me, how to save cash, how to save your operating cost, how to optimize our life, how to be a how to live with the invisible interfaces. So I think these are the opportunities we will be having, or these are the challenges we will be having. So there are certain more challenges which we are facing in different type of industries. We are facing the industries like retail, public sector, and in this slide you will see how much is the impact. The most impact is like travel and transport industry. I am not sure how many months they will take to really surpass that current challenge and to get into a normal life. I don't know how much time manufacturing industry will take to really get into the normal life. But our life will continue. We will come out with some kind of innovations. We'll come out with some kind of a mechanism to really surpass these kind of stuff. So, so coming back, these are the new logos. Would you like to be part of these logos? So we'll figure it out. Which are these logos? Just imagine, apart from GAFA, there is Alibaba. Just you can see some of the like Monzo. Monzo is one of the banks without branches. Like that, there are around 40 50 plus banks across the world without branches. They have gone without branches. They are only app only banks. You can see there are other logos like Geo, Hyperledgers, Netflix, and so on. And most importantly, these logos are adopting technology like AI, ML, and blockchain. That is why I am showing these logos, which has a clear vision and a pace, and these logos will remain forever there because they are already adopting this technology. We will see how it will happen. Like, so what we have seen so far, what are the current situation, what are the current trends, how human transformation happened in the last 20 years or so, and we'll see what is that new opportunities or challenges in front of each other. So in challenges or opportunities, in 2015, UN countries, around 140 countries, all together sitting together and come up with a Sustainable Development Guideline goals, SDGs. So these are 17 SDGs. If you can read out some of them: no poverty, zero hunger, good health. I repeat, good health. Can you just imagine something is happened in Wuhan, and that has really transformed or propagated almost more than 100 plus countries. Can you not imagine? Health is very, very important aspect apart from IT, or apart from payment, or apart from digital transformation. So I think these 17 sustainable development goals, what they show is that every country has to aspire their agenda like Digital India or Make in India around these goals. So it's very important for us, whenever as an organization we are working, we need to see how we are contributing or how human is contributing to these goals. Say imagine after 10, 15 years, we'll be hungry for water, clean water. That is not a challenge today, but the work or the kind of action as a society will take today, it will decide how long it will take for to really sustain for a clean water. So I think these 17 sustainable development guidelines are very, very important for any of those innovations. Starting from the next thing, around 1 billion people are estimated to lack legally recognized form of ID, digital identity. Suppose in a COVID kind of a scenario, if a World Health Organization asks your country, tell me how many people are infected by COVID and how many of them are not infected by COVID. Considering current situation, we know how many of them are there. We had to do a lot of tests. And though, what about those guys, or what about those citizens for whom we don't have a digital identity? Just imagine 3.4 billion people who have some form of ID but no digital trail. We don't know what they are doing, where they are staying, and so on. 3.2 billion have some form of ID and digital trail. So out of half a billion, 3.2 billion people have something or the other ID. They might be having social media account. They know, we through Google or through Amazon, we come to know what they are really doing. So out of those half a billion people who are utilizing internet, almost 3.2 billion people have form of some kind of ID. Say for example, in India we have a Aadhaar as a digital identity, but it has to be propagated into not only in banking but many other industries. Like we have seen, it is propagated in banking, it is propagated in telecom, but we need to see how it will be propagated into health industry. How many of them are really adopted by the health industry? So 2.5 billion people do not have access to financial services, are forced to rely on inconvenient ways like cash, often risky means. We have seen adoption of digital means in Africa. It's not out of curiosity to a digital payment. It's out of risk. Somebody should not steal your cash. So I think these kind of challenges are there in front of world, right? 1 billion people almost earn $1 to $2 in cash. How they will come onto the digital way? So that's a way to look at human transformation, right? So coming back, I have seen almost half of the world is utilizing internet, and just 90 to 80% of that, everybody is on social media. Either they are on LinkedIn, either they are on Facebook, either the new generation they are on Snapchat, or either they are on YouTube, Twitter, something or the other. There are more than 40-50 plus channels are available. In China they have their own social media tools, and in India we have seen WhatsApp, Facebook primarily quite active. Just TikTok, that's another active. But there is no such mechanism in any of these apps, or there is no such mechanism in our life that any point in time I can go on Facebook or I can go on WhatsApp, I'll say switch off. What does it mean? It means that there is no facility that I am switching off myself from a WhatsApp or from a Facebook for next 10 hours or for 1 month. In that time, Facebook, WhatsApp, or Twitter, or any of the telecom service providers, none of them should utilize my data. That confidence is not there with a human right now. Whoever is on Android, they are already on Google, and Google knows everything. Whoever is utilizing those maps, we know how they are traveling from home to offices or anywhere. Whoever is on Apple phones, they already are customer Apple. So there is no such mechanism to go and off these social media channels. That's an opportunity, or I would say that's a trust we need to build. Coming back, lot of digital identity mechanisms are available in the world. In India itself, we have passports, we have PAN cards, we have Aadhaar, we have voter ID, and so many things. Say example like Estonia, they have only one digital identity. Small countries who are tech-savvy countries, they have only one or two identities. And just imagine another risk factor is that some of the people carry number of Aadhaar cards. That's how is our system. Some of the people carry and can create n number of passports. That's our system. So I think we need to really see what is that opportunity to really surface these challenges to create a right set of digital identity. Today, our identity is a digital identity. I, as an innovator, expect that tomorrow's identity will be a behavioral identity. As a government or as a regulator, they should know where is this guy standing, where is this guy living, provided there are good sets of rules and regulation of data privacy and security. Today, it is not available. Scenario like COVID has really opened up that challenge in front of Aadhaar. Scenario, this pandemic challenge has really opened up that situation in front of WHO, how digital identity can be utilized. How can I know, how can I trace, how can I do the surveillance of my all the citizens, how safe they are. We have very good experiment today, like Arogya Sethi, it's very good app. But there is always an opportunity to bring another kind of innovation and opportunity to bring on to the next level. So another challenge, right? In India, we must have seen that private property, no trespassing. So this we have seen everywhere. Whoever buy the land, whoever buy the flat, he is not staying there. He'll put that board. For what purpose? Because we don't trust. We don't trust our society, or we don't have that kind of a mechanism in our society that please be free, please be peaceful, please be happy. Your land, your home, your property is safe. There is a record of that property which cannot be altered or which cannot be tampered. It is all safe. That mechanism is not available. I would say rather challenge, it's an opportunity for us. Some of the governments in India has started that opportunity to take on, done some POCs, pilots, but I think it's taking too long time. Country like India, they really want to be number one economy in next 30 to 40 years. We need to really see how our people will be happy, how less of corruption will happen. Remember again that 17 sustainable development guidelines. One of the thing is that zero poor, zero corruption. It's all because of this. Now they see another thing: mortgages, loan agreement, too much manpower wastage, too much of operations. A man going for a loan, man going for asking for doing a deal of agreement or something under real estate kind of an agreement. It takes 15 to 20 days in our life. Human has to transform beyond that. We used to send those letters, inland letter. We used to send those postcards. We used to wait for 15 days. Not for these things. How are we waiting for these things also? I think it's an opportunity. I'm not saying that it will happen overnight, but it's again an opportunity. We'll see how it will happen here on. Another area, like we have heard, whenever now we are bringing vegetables from our nearby shop, or nowadays we are not ordering anything on Domino's. McDonald's is saying that we are providing burgers and all, which is like a COVID proof. All they say it will be used into all those rules and regulations, and it will be so safe and healthy burger for you. But still, people don't want that. Still, people will not buy until this will surpass. We are buying apples, we are buying vegetables. What do? We put it in some warm water, or we put it outside of home, or outside in some isolated area within home, and after we open up after 2 3 days. We don't have any mechanism right now in India or anywhere that I will say this particular apple has come from this particular farm, or this particular rice has come from this particular farm, and this quality of rice or quality of apple is superb. We don't have that mechanism because our supply chain or logistics system doesn't allow. In current supply chain, it's all broken. So as a human being, I am searching for that mechanism. How can I really say this apple, which is a fantastic apple, right? Or how a particular apparel which I am buying from a Paytm or a Flipkart is being created so many days before, and it is available with this cost, and the quality is so good. So that mechanism is not available. So supply chain traceability is something which is not available. Once again, Aadhaar is impacted. Aadhaar is being utilized in banking, some government, and some of the use cases. It has to go everywhere. It has to go in your career. It has to go in human resources. It has to go in travel industry. It has to go in a health industry. It has to go in for insurance. It has to go for e-commerce transaction. Somebody is going and staying in a hotel. What we do? We ask that guy, please give your Aadhaar ID. We just do a scanning or take a xerox and keep it. It is a disconnected experience. The way we ask your Aadhaar number and open a bank account with the eKYC, can we not do that registration of that guest at a hotel directly connected to the eKYC just to see whether he is authentic customer or not? So I think there are n number of such opportunities on a digital identity. So let's look at that. This is another example. Like these are EVM machines, like electronic voting machine. We say these are tamper-proof. These are so superb. Still something goes wrong. So if you're really voted, do you really see that your vote is really counted? One of those countries like Estonia country has really created e-voting system. What does it mean? You have a mobile app, and on your mobile app, you can vote in that restricted time, and your voting system is intact. Your votes are intact, far secure, and really counted real time. That's an opportunity as a country in front of us. We have seen uh, uh, those dabas where we used to have those polls, but this is something good. EVM is something good, but here also we have something better opportunity. Now the best part, sharing economy. How many of you must have traveled with Ola, Uber? Almost 90 to 95% in the last 3 to 4 months. Ola, Uber, or any of those taxis available in those countries. And sharing economy, if you really see there are n number of sharing economies. Apart from Uber, there are n number of things are available worldwide. In a hotel, you must have heard name of or in real estate, Airbnb or WeWork, Amazon, right? TaskRabbit, Freelancer, eBay. These are all different examples of aggregator share economy, and the study says that today, as in India, we might be dealing with 8 to 9 sharing economy, sharing entities. But tomorrow you will have at least 400 plus entities or sharing economies. If on this slide, if you see, people will not buy cars after 10 years. Normal people who want to buy luxurious cars, they will keep on buying. People will not buy televisions. People will not buy houses. People will not buy offices. People will not buy bikes. Say example, digital media. That has really changed. People used to buy those cassettes, video cassettes, CDs. I have a number of them, but nothing works on my laptop, or they are useless. I can't use them anywhere. Similarly, in 20 years from now, you will see n number of entities will come, and if you see these entities, they are interrelated. And if you see internet, mobile, and the food ordering or a real estate app, all of them are interrelated. I think something or other with your digital identity, or it is interrelated with your bank account. Say example, if you are ordering a car, or if you are giving a request for a cab, it is entitled to integrated with your payment instrument. If you are paying by Paytms or UPI, it is connected to your bank account. Your bank account inherently connected to your Aadhaar. So that's how you have to really see that how this network or how these systems are integrated to each other as of now. And they are integrated with each other in a silos manner. They are not integrated with each other as a network. So that's another opportunity in front of us to really surpass those challenges of too much of work or operational overhead. So now I'll open up apart from that, we have seen the cyber security is another challenge, right? If you are operating, if you are on any of those online channels, just one question: can you really confidently say that do those hackers cannot see your password or profile activity? Can you confirm you yourself that you are very much safe? That's another challenge in front of us in era of internet. So far internet has given so many things to us. Internet has given so many business models. Internet has given Aadhaar, internet has given Paytms, internet has given UPI, internet has given Swiggy, so many apps. Internet has given some of those fancy things wherein we go and buy on various Flipkarts and Amazons and so on. But internet has not given that aspect of networking effect and trust. That is what will drive our transformation here on. So whenever we look at innovation, innovation is there itself, but we need to really connect those dots. So these dots are various systems: Aadhaar and your health registry, or your payment systems at a bank, or your telecom systems, or something which is happening in some bank. So I think you have to really connect those dots and bring on some kind of an innovative ecosystem. So that is an opportunity challenge in front of us as a society and human being. So coming back to the blockchain kind of a concept, I will talk about blockchain trends. I will not get into what is meant by exactly blockchain. I will not get into a node. What is meant by, you can connect me on offline to ask these type of questions. But considering time which we have, I really want to give a perspective how human is a transform from last several years, and how blockchain gonna come and help these challenges, whatever 9-10 opportunities which we have seen on Aadhaar or digital identity or voting systems or sharing economy or 17 sustainable development guidelines. In all of these use cases, or those buying selling of land, or you are putting that board on this land belongs to me and so on, in all of these use cases, blockchain plays integral part. Rather, I would say blockchain plays major role, and it will surpass that challenge of bringing that trust. So blockchain is being experimented by more than 40-50 countries. This report is of 2017 by World Economic Forum. More than that. So that is how it's very important. Countries like Dubai, countries like Estonia, countries like Switzerland, they are almost on blockchain. Estonia, more than 290 plus use cases on blockchain. Estonia was a country was about to get vanished from the world's map. Just imagine all the citizens in that country were given with a 10 euros and asked to live your life. Just imagine you got 110 rupees and you are living your life. Will you be able to live? So the country who has surpassed that corruption era, and now those are among top 10 countries as a innovation index is concerned. I think that's the way to look at Estonia act as a template for any of the country like India or any other country, how to implement blockchain or distributed ledger technology into your digital identity system, into your banking systems, into your payment system, into your healthcare system. Just imagine if they have implemented more than 290 use cases. We as a country, we have a number of use cases, and that has started. At least 10 to 12 state government has started working on it. Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, Maharashtra, Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. So these states has really started adoption of blockchain some or the other ways. So as a World Economic Forum, here on from 2020 on, apart from blockchain, so blockchain is not the only solution. Blockchain has to work concurrently or in parallel with your mobile apps, or with your AI, or with the robotics. So blockchain or a distributed ledger technology, which is one of those transformative new technology, it is not the only thing. It has to work with something which is user interface. It has to work something in between as an API. So when I started my blockchain journey, I used to hear this phenomenon called Bitcoin. So as a layman, I used to see this as a one more currency or cryptocurrency. Some of the countries are adopting, never know how it will come to in India. That point in time, I didn't even think about this Bitcoin is not legal thing, right? But by the time in the course of learning from 2016 now, I know Bitcoin since 2009 it has started. There are more than 3,000 such cryptocurrencies, maybe more than that, and you yourself can create your own cryptocurrency for some or the other ways. So Bitcoin, just imagine since 2009 till now, the whole size of Bitcoin transaction in almost all the nodes of Bitcoin across the world, that particular one node size doesn't go beyond 165 GB. That's the beauty about it. I don't know like how they store. I don't want to get into technicalities in this presentation. And they don't have a dedicated data centers also. Although they have a mining data centers, but the way banks or telecom companies has n number of data centers, DCs, disaster recovery, near disaster recovery, I think it doesn't require that much. So like a Bitcoin, Ripple, Ethereum, altcoins, and Litecoins, there are Ripple, or there are more than 3,000 plus such cryptocurrencies. That era is called as a blockchain 1.0. What we are aspiring for is a blockchain 2.0. I'll come to that. So I spoken about Estonia, how that country has really surpassed that challenge. The country had to just reboot from zero, and that's the power of blockchain or a trust mechanism, building that trust mechanism within a country. uh, so Dubai is another example. They want to by 2021, they also want to bring a lot of governance ecosystem governance things in on blockchain. So there are some examples like blockchain based phones, that's also coming back. So I think that's the difference blockchain will bring on to the internet has brought to us how a data can be passed from one node to another, how data can be passed from one system to another, but how cohesively, how a traceability should be maintained for when we are sending that data, or data remains there, how the value can be transferred from one node to another. That is that power blockchain brings to our life, and it surpasses all those trust level channels. Like somebody's bringing that food from Swiggy to my home, I know where is that my food with a Google map, but I can certainly deep dive and say, okay, how many times that guy has opened that box, provided IoT plus blockchain is an use case. You can really derive a number of use case. That is how blockchain brings that traceability aspect to our life. So time for blockchain for IRS. So if you define blockchain in a nutshell, is like a shared computer network, accessible, permissible to anyone on that network. In case of Bitcoin, Ethereum, anybody, because it's a public network. In case of banks, we will restrict it to our own banks or set of banks. It stores all the events, ownerships, execute workflow without use of separate systems, databases, digital information to be distributed, and so on and on. So this is a theoretical definition. So I'll bring on actual definition which will help you to understand. Now you can look at this architecture, which is a traditional bank architecture. What's happening here? Somebody from e-com or a tablet or a POS doing a transaction, and that transaction will go to that bank's acquiring bank's infrastructure or a database server or application server and so on. From there, it will that transaction will be routed to a trusted association. In this case, NPCI. There are other trusted network like Visa, Mastercard, and Diners, and so many are there worldwide. So what I mean to say, whenever a transaction happens on either on an e-commerce website or on your POS or a MPOS or UPI kind of a mechanism, transaction starts from that device, goes to an intermediate server of a bank, from their trusted server, and then on it reaches to the another server where beneficiary server is there. There again, a lot of infrastructure. Like at the core banking, you will see database server, application server, web server, and so much of investment is done. What does it mean? It means that n number of computers, n number of servers, n number of events, and moreover, in such cycle, in this payment cycle, there is a cycle called settlement. which happens next day. And after that, actual payout happens to a merchant, that e-commerce merchant or a UPI merchant. It happens next day. It doesn't happen real time the way it happens on cryptocurrencies. And moreover, it takes settlement, reconciliation, and this settlement and reconciliation is not automated function out there. It is a operation done by man in behind. In a COVID-like situation, how many people are going in the office and doing that settlement and reconciliation? It's a huge challenge for a society and for us, right? So that's the era where we are living, where current overheads are like dispute management, reconciliation, settlement, manual intervention, so on. And in case a transaction didn't work, what will happen? You will call to the contact center. There again, some people are sitting. So post-COVID, would you like to really bring on more optimization, more operations? Do you want to really transform your human to some other area? That's a challenge. That's an opportunity. So now coming back, this definition: shared computer, accessible, permission to anyone, stored in event. This is all happening into n number of systems in a traditional bank. But in case of blockchain, we'll see how it happens. So this is a traditional bank where transaction is happening from a card holder to merchants bank to a MasterCard association, and then next day clearing happens, and then settlement happens with a lot of people in between. You are seeing that, and a lot of fraud happens, a lot of error happens, a lot of operational overhead, too much of cost, and we want to save cost. We want to save manpower. We want to do a lot of consolidation. So how do we do that? So now this traditional architecture which we have seen here. I want to really transform this as like this, where you do transactions, and instead of so many number of servers by each bank, I will have a single node for every bank. A node for bank A, node for bank B, even node for regulator, a node for NPCI or Visa or MasterCard. And what's the opportunity? Opportunity: no reconciliation, no settlement. It is settlement, immediate settlement. Consist a single computer. That's the definition of blockchain. Having all set of events programmed right there, accessible to anyone the way you will provide access. In a private network, only few people. In public network, anybody can download and see that. But as a bank, we will have our own private network. No dispute management, no reconciliation. What it will help? End user and end customer will have a better customer experience. We will talk a lot around that. Why we are not doing it? Because we have very good robust system as of now, and if you were to wipe it out, it's a n number of days, too much of investments we have done so far. It takes a lot of time. So identification of right use case for a blockchain is very important. Typically, you can transform everything in blockchain, but it is not needed. You have to really see what is that use case you will drive with the help of a blockchain. So okay. So this is all around your blockchain-based bank. Reduces settlement time, supports smart transaction, cost reduced, trusted third-party elimination, eliminates error handling by man, and most importantly, secure transaction ledger database. With all these benefits, greater security, faster settlements, and so on. So far, as a human, we have seen n number of currencies in our life, starting from barter, gold, metal coins, paper money, plastic cards. So we do carry paper money nowadays, or plastic card, or electronic money. Cryptocurrency, it is not so much implemented or adopted by world, because there are a lot of challenges in current cryptocurrencies. They are not legal. That is why in India it is not allowed. If we will do everything around regulation. Tomorrow, as a country, if you have another country, another cryptocurrency or a digital currency, it will be around some asset, it will be some regulation. Then only we will go for that. But there are other use cases for coins or crypto coins, like wheat coin or a milk coin or some banana coin. We'll discuss around that. One of the use cases could be like wheat coin. In Punjab, lot of grain is produced by farmers. So grain production from that farmer, bringing that grain to a mandi or to an arthia, selling it out. Currently, it is happening on a rupee card. Again, there is a lot of settlement, lot of operational efforts are going. But tomorrow, I can bring that whole ecosystem around a wheat coin, supported by asset called wheat. Today's cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, are not supported by any of those assets. It is not supported by any of those global currencies. That is why we will not entertain them. But tomorrow, if you want to bring on Bitcoin, we will say it is supported by wheat, or a milk coin supported by milk. But it will reduce all those settlements and so many other challenges around, and ultimately the farmer will receive actual cost for his grains. That's one of the use case in farming, in agriculture. And there are n number of such use cases in agriculture. And there again, your digital identity, your banking system, that farmer, wherever, that whole system has to come on the same network. That's an opportunity, like sharing economy, which I was talking about. So what we have seen, that the type of blockchain is like 1.0 is all about your cryptocurrencies. We have seen that world. It's all mature world. Bitcoins people are utilizing. In blockchain 2.0, which is a ethical way of implementing blockchains, wherein you will see smart contracts or decentralized apps will be utilized by telecoms, banks, media industry, healthcare, aviation industry. I can name more than 60, 70, 80 plus industries where you will find these use cases. And tomorrow, when we'll transform our life from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, there you will see blockchain 4.0, distributed autonomous agents enterprise in future, that yet to come. So today we are in era of blockchain 2.0. So if you relate topology of blockchain, so what we have seen, cryptocurrencies, bitcoins, all of them are permissionless public blockchain. What as a bank we will look at as a private blockchain with a permission blockchain, and depends upon a use case, we can have an amalgamation of a private plus public called as a hybrid blockchain. So any questions we'll ask, so current system typically are centralized systems. Some system is connected to a centralized system. So tomorrow on a blockchain, it will be like a public blockchain, which is how Bitcoin works. And this is something proposed private blockchain for enterprises, and where we can manage privacy, when we can manage access rights, and so on. Uh, how organizations will are adopting this, and why organizations are adopting this? So typically in India, there there are many types of organizations. Some of the organizations are adopting because other organization has adopted it. Some of the organizations know, yeah, somebody is doing that pilot, let me also do that. So, but that is not a case. If you are adopting blockchain kind of a scenario to really transform your customer's life, look at how you are resolving real problems. For example, settlement, man in middle, secure system availability, and robust systems with much of less of operational efficiency. So that's a way to look at your organization. And typically, if you want to adopt blockchain in your organization, see how your organization is ready. See where your top level, your board members, your management member, do they understand what is meant by blockchain? If not, create awareness programs, bring on some mentors, create some training for them, bring on some right case of use cases for your organization, collaborate with the typical kind of industry. Say for that's a very good see experiment which we have seen in 2017. A banking kind of a consortium or a forum has arisen with the 30 plus banks together, SBI, ICCI, Kotak, DCB, and so on. And that has a given example of how competitors are collaborating with each other, right case of use cases. And more than 21 use cases they have identified. And I think that has really triggered other banks to really come together. And if you dig out, ICICI Bank, S Bank, and many other banks has really started working on blockchain. So as a journey for your organization, it has to come from top, collaborate with your industry, start some of the consortiums based upon the use cases, identify all the use cases and prioritize some of the use cases. Based upon a priority, do some proof of concepts with the startups, fintechs, or a blockchain companies. We'll dig out which are those best blockchain companies in India, outside of India, and learn from that and implement them around regulation. So I think that's a way to look at how do we adopt a blockchain. So this is another way to do that. Even recently, Niti Aayog has published a blockchain strategy paper, and it has also very good information. IDRBT has published a very good paper how a banking should adopt blockchain. So on this side, it's very important slide. This slide helps you to see which are those operational processes, which are those new business models will require blockchain. So any of the process, say for example, customer onboarding, ask all of these questions around these data security, intermediary, transparency, trust, authentication. Ask these questions to that system. Say example, when I said that customer onboarding for me, it took 30 days. And that process was paper-based documentation. There was a lot of document validation. Multiple storages was there. Data consistency was not there. So if I ask that process these questions, process will say, yes, I am eligible for blockchain transformation, or I am eligible for implementing on my process on blockchain, because there is too much of operations, lack of trust is there, and trust is needed. Lot of reporting is there, lot of manual, there high reconciliation cost is there. So wherever you find some set of answers as a yes for all of these questions, go for blockchain. So that is the best way to identify use cases in your organization. In the next slide, like apart from that, you need to see whatever the implementation we have done on blockchain, whether it is optimistic, secure, that kind of a data is evolving. Company like KPMG, EY are really doing good work on that. So globally, if you see the adoption of blockchain, so these are the countries who has really adopted nicely. Look at these countries: Estonia, China, more than 500 use cases they are on blockchain. They will launch it. They may not tell you, but they will launch it. Australia has its own standard on blockchain. That's one of the bottleneck which we have seen. Internet has a standard, but blockchain never had a standard. So I think Australia is bringing on their own standard. Look at UAE or Dubai, how they are bringing on various use cases. So India also not way behind. Government of India is exploring use of technology. The best part of India, that government of India speaks language of blockchain. Maharashtra government, you talk about Kerala government, Telangana government, Madhya Pradesh government, you talk about Assam government, Goa government, or you talk about Chandigarh government, Tamil Nadu government. They know what is meant by blockchain. Some of the state has their own blockchain policy, and they have implemented some of those use cases. In Maharashtra, they are implementing something on RTOs. In Telangana, they have implemented or in a stage of implementation for land registration. Uttar Pradesh, I had visited IS officer from Uttar Pradesh. Can you just imagine? Almost every land is digitized. Now, just they need a framework how to put it on blockchain. So much of work happening at a government level also in India. There are other cases like how blockchain can be utilized we have seen that use case in Singapore, or use cases in some of the African countries. They want telecom companies to adopt blockchain and so on. So that's the adoption of or rather adoption regulation around cryptocurrency. So India, although recently they said that go ahead, but for a specific industry like insurance or banking, there is no regulation. We are waiting, or we are in a process of creation of that regulation. In comparison, Switzerland has a very good guideline around how to really, and although they have a 2 to 3 entities on blockchain. What does it mean? It means they have 2 to 3 banks completely on blockchain. They have a crypto banks ready model in Switzerland. So I think that's a way to look at in the future. Yeah, these are the examples of various companies in India. Look at Scienzy or Katina, Cripsy or Sophocles, and some of them are wiped out. But I think it's a huge. When I started writing first blog on blockchain, I must have seen 10 companies in blockchain. Today, I must have seen more than 300 very good companies in blockchain. On top of that, lot of consortiums. Say Bankchain was one of the consortium, fine, but lot of worldwide consortiums are happening. IBM or R3 or Hyperledger, WeTrade is another consortium of trade finance. So I think these companies are creating this use case based consortium, and I think best part of success of any of the blockchain use case to get a part of a consortium. That's what one of the slide I have mentioned. Industry collaboration is very important for blockchain adoption, where network-based use cases are there. Some of the use cases in human resource within your organization may not require that industry collaboration. Although we'll talk about, if I have received one question around HR relevant use cases, what are the different use cases? I'll answer that in some time. The company like IBM, Accenture, TCS, Infosys, NTT are far ahead compared to the other companies like Atos. And this is in 2019. And blockchain is such technology is so changing day by day. It's an opportunity for a company sitting in a last quadrant to really surpass the top level company. That's how is the dynamism around adoption of a blockchain. Tomorrow you yourself can start a company in a blockchain and really be there on top. I must give in some of the examples. I know that one startup in Bangalore, like Origraph. Just imagine massive work done by those guys. Their own Hyperledger kind of an Ethereum kind of an ecosystem, and it is really, if it is really nurtured nicely, it will become one of the top quadrants. You never know. That's the opportunity right now to create your own fabrics. That opportunity certainly will not be there after 3 to 4 years. Why? Because IBM's, Microsoft's, Alibaba's, everybody is creating their robust infrastructure on the cloud. So when I said blockchain is not the only way to succeed, you have to amalgam other technologies. So blockchain plus cloud or AI, or we'll talk about how IoT will become tomorrow's channel for the human beings. So far we have seen about uh, various terminologies around blockchain, why blockchain is very important, the trust factor which you are not seeing in internet kind of a model, how blockchain can be helpful, how blockchain can be helpful into banking use cases, or some of the system to really reduce on errors, operational aspects, and so on. So here on, I will give some of the slides around various use cases. Looking at those slides, you will understand what are the different use cases. So in a banking, security, IoT, government, in all these icons, you will see some or the other use case is there. And if you really want to dig out those use cases, contact me offline. I will give detailed use cases, how a country is doing voting, or how pharma pharma industry is getting onto the blockchain, or a microfinance industry is getting on a blockchain, or a ride sharing. Some of the ride sharing are coming on blockchain, or a voting, or a refugee aid. That we have seen in Kerala, or in a Nepal, or in a Bangladesh, refugee relevant, or even World Economic Forum had a challenge around bring on a use cases on blockchain for a refugee aid. And even in the COVID era also, when you are providing your funds or your help, it is tracked under blockchain. So I think there are different ways of industries who are adopting blockchains. Again, if you deep dive in a banking itself, asset certification, trade finance, centralized KYC, syndicated loans between number of banks, or or a cross-border payment, which has a lot of operational efforts, how we can enhance that overall system. So other thing like you can see insurance claims management or a P2P insurance, how dynamic insurance tomorrow, your car plus your identity, your bank or your car manufacturer, how all of them will come onto the same network. That is what another use case on a insurance. Telecoms, just imagine how much media you as a media producer are putting on any of those OTT platform, and how many of them have viewed it. You can really get that real-time royalty back to your digital identity based bank account in a real-time basis. Today, in that area, too much of dissatisfaction among those media creators. They don't have, first of all, platform to put it. It's a heavy cost if they want to put it on Netflix or some other, or if they want to create a cinema out of in media. It's a lot of cost. Just imagine some other platform coming in, giving an opportunity to put it on a with some less fees, and whatever viewers are viewing, relevant royalty goes back to that media content creator. That's another satisfaction level brings on to this. I think there are n number of use cases. So typical use cases we have seen is around automotive, banking, healthcare, high tech, and in this slide it gives an adoption of use cases. So in a banking, our banking industry is heavily adopted with the use cases. Banking and finance and insurance, almost 40% of world's blockchain or a DLT based use cases are into blockchain, followed by other information and communication. Rest, media industry or health, where we were talking about how COVID type of scenario will have a health industry. I think that's an opportunity to bring on other industry to get amalgam with the financial industry. So we are working with a very interesting use case with the income tax department, with other fellow banks as with the Infosys as a partner. So currently we are looking at a form 15GH. There is a lot of manual efforts, like efforts from every branch, then effort from every bank to give back those reports to the income tax department, and income tax department are reconciling it. Everything will happen seamlessly real time, and that's a real use case. I'm not talking about pilot. That's an aspiration from the income tax department. So from today's vision, they want to transform human life not only from banks but from other industries. Data coming from GST, data coming from LIC, data coming from payment gateway, data coming from insurance agencies, corporates, stock exchanges. Just imagine how different set of use cases will see that. So there is one mechanism or one entity is arise in year 2019 end, and they are looking to get to do successful pilots. Account aggregators. What these account aggregators are doing? Account aggregators are aggregating data from some of the regulated entities like banks or insurance companies or GSTs, and they will open up these APIs to the banks or the fintechs or the some other industry, where end user will have a right set of different use cases like new banks or many other such use cases. So I think looking at account aggregator will become a PSD2 kind of a standard, which we have seen UK or Europe Union. So that's the start, but I think tomorrow account aggregator will adopt blockchain. They will have to, if they have to really bring on that trust aspect between that API call or between that transaction between two entities. So I think that's a way to look at adoption of Ripple is another use case which it being utilized for a cross-border payment. So apart from Ripple, there are n number of mechanisms who are utilizing for a cross-border payment. Swift recently has started adopting blockchain. Look at these slides. Some of the banks in Japan has already started a CKYC on blockchain. What does it mean? It means if a customer A coming to a bank X and he's completing his KYC, and if that customer is going to bank X again for another service, the bank can reutilize that KYC for other service. Moreover, opportunity to for bank Y, so bank B is that they can reutilize the KYC which is being done by bank A with some nominal cost. But what does it mean? It means that as a country, you are consolidating efforts around customer onboarding. We have heard about UPI, how much nice consolidation we have done. 40, 50, 70 plus banks are on UPI doing these transactions real time. What is, and these are the same customers being onboarded by the different banks. So why not to do a consolidation during customer onboarding also? So that is an opportunity. And when you are designing that system, when you are developing that system, when you are implementing that system, we need to really consider blockchain or ledger technology as a backbone for that, so that we don't have to revert. That's learning from this particular slide, which is being implemented in one of those consortium in Japan. One of these companies provides complete banking suite called as a ledger banking. It is a Singapore-based company, Blockchain Works. So their core banking, their APIs, their mobile app, their corporate banking app, their channels and social apps, their third-party apps can integrate with this blockchain-based APIs architecture. Just imagine how easy, or just imagine for those companies called Infosys or TCS, if they transform or if they bring on blockchain kind of a experience. I think that's the way to look at it. You cannot really transform everything throughout the night. You have to really see how you will transform step by step. That is how the experiment which NPCI is being doing with the Vajra. So they are not touching payment system, but they are touching peripheral settlement system, how settlement can be done real time through Vajra kind of a mechanism. That's how even Infosys is bringing on that 15GH kind of a use case. Tomorrow you will see trade finance or cross-border payment, which is not touching core, but maybe after 10 years, maybe after 15 years, when the millennial customers or millennial corporates or millennial bankers, they would like to really surpass these operations, really surpass these legacy systems. Today's systems could be modern systems, but for them after 20 years, those will be legacy systems. So they will look at how they will really change the regulation in favor of the customers out there that point in time. Supply chain, which is another use case, is very, very complex. It on a slide, it is so easy to say that supply chain is the best use case for a blockchain. On a paper, it is very easy to say that supply chain is one of the most adopted use case. But if you actually deep dive, supply chain is the most complex network. Bank, processing parts, retailers, wholesalers, SMEs, customers, they're different. It's a massive exercise. I think I am still myself studying how there will be a different kind of operating system for a supply chain on blockchain. But certainly, if somebody comes with a supply chain kind of an innovation for on a blockchain, that will be a massive successful startup, I must say. Again, supply chain logistics, how a supplier from manufacturer till last consignee, how the whole traceability and whole manual efforts, and we can really bring on a lot of efficiency in that aspect. The school systems, campus management, the whole school system is on blockchain in this slide. Just imagine your results, your current uh, current student performance, the data learning systems, identity of that student in that educational ecosystems can be on blockchain. Just like in digital identity for a country, digital identity within that ecosystem. Those are the other use cases. Similarly, you can see smart cities. Smart cities are also adopting blockchain. Just imagine a smart city as a country and implement blockchain out there. So that's a way to really look at another use case. Everledger has implemented it, right? Just a theme. Look at the theme. is attempting to sell the diamond which he has got from somebody else. So immediately jeweler can notify police that this guy is there, please take care of him. That's how it is. Similar use cases, like somebody who is coming and I think I would like to give an example of a startup who is working on a agriculture kind of an idea, where in warehouses, it is a phenomenon called as a warehouse financing. So the farmers can get a receipt, warehouse receipt, against their grains, which they will put it in those godowns of that warehouses, and these receipts can be utilized to get some kind of a against the loan from the banks. So what happens? So whenever sale will happen if sale will happen in a godown, immediate notification will go to the bank, and bank will reimburse that amount directly from that farmer's account. But typically this is not online today. So what is happening? Same farmer going to bank A, to bank B, and bank C and asking for the loan, and it is acceptable. Why? Because these banks are not interconnected. So in this slide, the way you have seen, all the jewelers are interconnected. Any of the diamond being sold in any of the jewelry shop, everybody knows the current status of every diamond. So any jeweler can recognize a stolen diamond and immediately can be notified to an insurance company or a police department and so on. So that's a way to look at it. So now look at this slide, the Boeing, like they have brought in this experience of a complete Boeing aeroplane is made of several parts, and all these parts are procured from a supply chain from the manufacturers. Now just imagine every part sees and gives a notification, I am going to expire after 7 days, please procure me. The whole ecosystem on blockchain, smart contract based blockchain. So these IoT devices gives a notification to you that I am going to expire, please re-procure me. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. That is the power of bringing IoT plus blockchain. Now tomorrow, your refrigerator will order something from the nearby shop, the way you have programmed your refrigerator. Or tomorrow, your electricity appliances will do the payment of their spendings based upon how you have programmed, how you have created a smart contract against that IoT devices. We are imagining this world, and I think we may say that it will not happen, but mark my words, it will happen. Tomorrow's customers are IoT devices. Tomorrow's customers are your wearables. You going to drive that. The way mobile is today, your device who is doing transactions, tomorrow your smart house, your smart homes, your smart offices, your smart car will go directly to your petrol pump for the fuel. They will go to the maintenance station on their own, and it's happening outside of the world, and it will happen slowly. And if you want to bring on the trust aspect between that petrol pump or banking system, your car, there you require a seamless network based ecosystem built on a concept called blockchain. Another example, energy grids, where whatever energy produced at your home, can it be shared with other home? Yes, possible. That's a sharing economy. I was talking about taxis or real estates. Another entity which is energy, it's gonna become another sharing economy, sharing entity, where again this will come onto the blockchain. I was talking about media and entertainment, right? So this flow of right, starting from this writer, publisher, collective management organization, then digital service provider, and at the end, listener. And then after that, you will give that revenue profit back to the writer or that publisher. Just imagine the whole ecosystem which you see on the left and is transformed onto the right side. Everybody is on that blockchain network. Everybody sees the on real time utilization of this media, and real time this publisher or writer gets the incentives or the royalty. Again, telecom industry is riding on the similar use cases for broadcasting, advertising, content creation, and so on. Trade finance is another use cases. Currently, it takes a lot of time, lot of overheads, lot of man in middle. Multiple banks are involved in trade finance, and it can be transferred into blockchain based smart contract based trade finance, which will speed up the transaction and moreover with a lower cost. Your project management process, starting from your document creation of requirement gathering, business requirement gathering, till it goes live. Every action can be traced. Every action can be really put as an event in a blockchain based system, and to derive where your application or where your patch or where exactly a change request has reached. That's another way of a blockchain. So I was talking about agriculture, how agriculture industry will come on blockchain, starting from farmer, procurement, buying agents. Like I was giving example of this Arathia in Punjab, or it could be a rice farming in Kerala or sugarcane farming in Maharashtra. So these use cases certainly has to come on a on a blockchain. You will see a number of use cases. It's like fair pricing will be provided to the farmer. You will see marketplace kind of a farming here on, uh, and these are the different use cases. Again, supply chain, IoT, which I spoke, healthcare, very important use case post COVID. Imagine whenever your citizen is born till unfortunately he died, all of his health records are maintained in a public health registry, for example. And just imagine all the citizens, like billions of citizens are there in India. All the data is available in that public health registry, which is AI or ML based registry. And the data which is being inserted is inserted with the help of blockchain. It means that is a tamper proof whole ecosystem. So starting from birth till he becomes patients, and different types of data which are captured by multiple hospital agencies in between. So I think that these data can be studied, utilized, reutilized for saying that in this Bombay area, those many patients, those many symptoms, in Delhi area, those many patients, those many symptoms. If the similar symptoms and those similar kind of a mechanism was studied in China or some other country, what was that remedy medicine, what was that remedy was utilized? Can it not be a useful ecosystem? It's a beginning, lot of work to do in this kind of a ecosystem, but certainly healthcare is one of the prime use case you will see. And we spoke about energy meters, we spoke about smart house. Similarly, you can bring on smart cities. In a smart city, you have various things to do, like how do you manage water, how do you manage various public services, how do you manage various government buildings out there, how do you manage uh, parking, how do you manage the payments in the parking, how do you manage toll collection in the parking, how do you manage cars, and how do you manage traffic, how do you manage surveillance. So whole ecosystem can come under blockchain, AI, and IoT. Just imagine your web cameras which are surveillance are putting that data, giving back data to the centralized systems, which is based upon blockchain from various. So it will be a phenomenal way to really do a monitoring, ease out the operations, and so on, which we have spoke. Insurance is another use case. So these are the different use cases. Even one or two startups has started or one of the two entities has started giving funds on a blockchain kind of ecosystem. What does it mean? It means that there is a transparency for investor for every pie he has invested into startup A, B, and C. He is aware how much that founder or a co-founder is spending his money. The traceability of every spending is maintained in this kind of ecosystem, which is not available today, right? So I think this is another era which will see human being transform. So ultimately, considering Cyberfright is a community of experts into uh, cyber security. So blockchain is going to change our networks. Blockchain is going to change the design of our networks. Blockchain is going to stop denial of service attacks. Blockchain is going to monitor your internal staff, how they are misusing, using intentionally, unintentionally. Blockchain is going to keep an eye on all of your endpoints. Blockchain will immediately give a notification your code has this error. Blockchain will store and secure your data. So I think ultimately blockchain has few use cases for securing your networks. I think a startup called Block Armor is doing very nice work in these aspects, Pune based startup. And in all of these use cases, I can really guide you all which are those startups are really doing very good work. So here on here on future of money, like how it will, like future of money is a digital currency or again a plastic card, or I think certainly there is a room for distributed ledger technology to come in and really ease out our life, ease out our lifestyle, operations, business models, and so on. So I think I will stop here now, and if we have some time, we'll talk through how blockchain will fit into your organization, how blockchain, apart from other technologies, are changing the way we interact our channels, how IoT or biometric or gesture or augmented reality will come to our life, how open banking is very important aspect for banks, how open banking is a good open banking plus blockchain is a very good use case or a very good combination for banks plus telecoms or governments. We'll talk about how yesterday's traditional banks are digital bank today will become tomorrow AI enabled bank, but how trust based AI enabled banking is can be developed with the help of a blockchain. So I think the model which we had seen, the branches with a man in middle, it all surpassed by the startups. So whatever you see, it branch, everything can be done by the startups through open banking or through API banking. There are n number of examples like DBS Bank or voice-based banking or something happening or smart branches instead of big branches post-COVID. We'll see this kind of same branches which are traditional branches will be transformed as a smart branches. Your drones will be utilized for a cash collection and cash transmission. The trust aspect is required when they are doing this. One of the bank in Russia has done this experiment recently. How to give the back cash. The ATM vans or smart branches, mobile branches, or which we have seen some of the examples in India recently. Coco branches, which are the mobile branches, small setup appears whenever it is required, disappears or goes to somewhere else. That could be the some innovation we'll see in near future in India also, or AR VR based bank. That's phenomenal thing gonna happen in a recent time in a bank. What's the next wave after your touch screen or after your mobile phone based touch screen or a voice? AR, VR, augmented reality, and virtual reality will become. Just imagine you are pointing your phone on a credit card or a debit card. Immediately, you will see a contact center agent talking to you as a hologram or on the phone. Or just point out your phone in the air. You will see your preferred restaurant or your preferred branch, nearest branch, on the phone, or you just point out in a shopping mall your phone in the air, you will see the nearest offer in the shopping mall, or you can see a bank statement on the air as a augmented reality, just when you're pointing out a debit card, which will just like a you will remove paper completely from our life, which is one of the sustainable development guidelines. Take care of trees, right? So I think that's the way to look at it. Your today's model is becoming a partner bank or a everyday bank or a marketplace bank. So a lot of things are there. I think I'll stop now and open this forum for some of those questions. Yeah, so I am available for those questions.
Uh, Hello, sir.